But just quickly to add to that, I also work with LinkedIn as an a training, learning and development specialist. So basically, I develop end-to-end e-learning solutions, which are mostly strategic drivers and business drivers oriented for the companies. So let me quickly go ahead and share my screen. And I hope also I do really want this session to be interactive, because you might find some points in the session wherein you might feel like contradicting me. So please feel free to do that, because the kind of insights that we have found with this was a little contradicting to us also, and it was very challenging to tell the stakeholders that this is something that is actually happening with our system. So, okay. So before I deep dive into educational data mining, I would like to know if every one of you knows something about data, and how do you use data in your day-to-day life. So it can be from anything, like for example, Netflix, or taking decisions on Netflix, or even taking decisions on Amazon or anything. So just feel free to put it in the chat, and also if you feel like unmuting yourself and talking, that's also fine by me. But for me, I think I use data on a very large scale basis, but also to make my life decisions. Not life exactly, but also to take day-to-day decisions, like for example, if I have to say I have to go and book a holiday home somewhere, or Airbnb. So I do first go and check the ratings that are there, and I do go check how many stars they have, how many comments are there in the box, is it safe, is it not safe. So these are the kind of decisions that we take on day-to-day life, only in terms of the data that has been shown to us, or like for example, even food as well. So if to go into a restaurant, you have to take someone out, and then you have to go to a restaurant, then definitely you do look at the ratings, right? So similarly, the same concept was the one which we used in our systems, and we found out that every day almost 2.5 quintillion bytes of data are being created and stored in databases. So this is, I'm talking in terms of every day. And when we found this much huge data, and most of the decision making is based on this kind of data, on a statistical analysis, and the data that is stored in these databases are what help us drive us on a day-to-day basis. But why is it that we are allowing this kind of data to drive our day-to-day analysis? Is because of the fact that, first thing is, okay, before I get into that, let me quickly tell you, like if you've seen Netflix, in Netflix, whenever you go and click on a horror movie, the next time when you open the Netflix app, you're going to see that the list of horror movie suggestions that are there, or a list of whatever movies that you like is something that it is going to suggest. So the same concept, imagine if we had applied it to learning, and if we have applied the same concept onto anything that we do. Like for example, if I have to say I have to prepare something on cooking basis, if I have to cook something, then what would I do? There would be a preparation method, there would be the ingredients list, there would be the time that is allotted, and there would definitely be what happens as the end product. So what we did was, when we sat together and when we discussed if this can be done, this cannot be done, so what we thought was, why don't we let learners decide? Just give them the data, and we let the learners decide what they have to do with all the data that we have given them, and if they have to choose a path for themselves. So this is what was there. This is the idea that was behind this educational data mining. But yeah, the data that I'm talking about here, and the databases that I'm talking about here, is on a very large scale basis. For example, Facebook is a large scale database. LinkedIn is a large scale database. Even you take, for example, Netflix also has a large customer database. But for us in education, don't you think we do have the same amount of database, which is as big as Facebook, which is as big as Instagram, which is as big as Snapchat? You take any social media, for example. So what we did was, the data that we collected, we named that as learner data. And that learner data is what we collect. And what learner data helps us to do is that, it helps us make connections that help us uncover certain insights about the learner and the learner behaviors. Here, I'm not talking about just one learner, because corporate learning deals with, groups, teams, and, departments. And each department has got huge people has got like huge employees in it. So what we do is that we take this data and we form certain connections, and how are these connections formed are on the basis of the digital footprints that a learner leaves on the website. So for example, if I have to say, if you're sitting in an ILT class or a VILT, definitely if I'm the felicitator and I'm viewing everyone on on video, I know that I can see your facial expressions, and I know that whether the talk is engaging or whether the session is engaging. Similarly in a classroom also, so if you see that your session is not engaging or what you're teaching is not engaging, maximum you do is that you can just give them a pop quiz, or if someone is sleeping, then definitely you can throw a marker on their head and then wake them up and say that, see, you're not listening to me. So these are certain things that can happen when you're there on face-to-face basis. But imagine if you're there in front of a computer, can you actually do that? But you can't do that, right? So you can't just go and ping someone and tell them, wake up, just go study right now. So you can't do that. And basically what happens when someone comes into corporate learning is that we do want the idea of having that own your learning, rather than we actually sitting and spoon feeding the learners. So this is what the learner data helped us understand also, is that the kind of connections that we made using the digital footprints, which I'm going to refer to henceforth as the digital body language of the learners. It actually helped us uncover certain insights about learner behaviors. And also these learner behaviors and patterns were then analyzed. And this entire pattern that was created was actually converted into a model. And then that was known as the learner model, which we also internally call it as a framework or a learner framework. So I guess I can show you the learner framework, but I think I'll leave it in the speed geeking session rather than me telling it over here. Yeah, so that is about the learner framework and what learner data is. Now you must be actually wondering, why is she talking about learner data and how are you going to represent it? So this is like a quick dashboard of how exactly a learner data is represented. So as you can see over here, this is the learner view. If I'm not the felicitator here, I'm the learner. So basically, if I have to see all of this on a day-to-day basis, so what is happening in virtual classroom, what is happening in the courses, what certificates are there, so how are your test results? So I will take you through the visualized graphs later on. But before that, we'll just get into the learner data interpretation here. So if you can see, this is like a very basic dashboard of any LMS that is out there. But but then this is again created for one single learner. And each person or each learner has got different kind of dashboards that will be seen over here, and different kind of learning paths that are seen over here. It's just that when a learner gets into the LMS and he sees this dashboard, this is where they know that how exactly is the learning going and how they can do it. Yeah. So now coming to the educational data mining part of it. So again, this is a very niche field. So not much of research has been done here, and I think the only white paper or any kind of research that is out there is I think like 3 or 4 papers as of I know. It's my as of the knowledge I know. But but what exactly is educational data mining? So it's again an emerging discipline. So whatever learner data that we have and whatever the learner database that we had, so that large scale data is what we are going to mine, or in other terms, what we can say that you're going to actually visualize the data and understand our learners and our students and our settings better, or the learning environment better, so that we can give them quality education or / quality learning, and get that entire learning as an experience, and not as leave the project and sit and study, or leave the project and sit and work here. So that is what we are planning to implement over here. And this is again in this also what we can say is that it's a very unique technique that we are using just by doing certain educational settings, and just by playing around with certain buttons over there. So this is where again the niche part of it, or the unique part of it, comes into picture. So that is what certain methods or developments is something that we are actually working on as well. And you can also call that, at least for the next 5 years, this field is going to be in a work in progress, rather than it being in an expert field, or in, the field that it has reached an expertise level. Okay, so in the chat, if someone can tell me, so just quickly, everyone, if someone can actually tell, say how exactly in your life have you mined data? So it can be a small thing, it can be a huge thing, it doesn't matter. So it doesn't have to be technical also, it can be a simple thing. Like for me, I mine data every day while I am trying to, again, Netflix. Again, while I'm trying to view Netflix, I mine data at that time. Like I mine movies, so that's mining data. So how is it that you're going to mine data, and how is it that you're doing it? Please put in chat, because all interesting examples is what we would like to know about. Okay, so moving on now. Yeah, so here you might actually be having a question on where exactly this educational data mining falls and what exactly does it do. So basically, educational data mining falls under the umbrella term of learning analytics. So the data mining part of it comes under the analytics, and it's also a little part of it is also involved in machine learning. So I will not get into the depth of this as of now, but any kind of statistical data and any kind of the analysis part happens in the analytics part of it. The data part of it happens in the analytics, but in the ML part of it is where we're going to actually analyze, how to create the learning path. So this helps us create learning paths. This helps us provide the learner models. So how exactly is it designed? It's pretty simple. I mean, though it looks simple, the algorithm is a little complex, but this is the entire design of it. So basically what happens is that we have a content dashboard over here. We have like 3 views that we have. One is the student view, one is the felicitator, one is the admin view. And in the felicitator and the admin view, what happens is that here there is a predictive model. So basically, the felicitator or the admin can actually view what the student is doing and how the student is doing. But for the student here, when they view the content here, there's definitely one adaptation engine that latches onto the content, and also an intervening engine which latches onto the content. So the intervening engine is where the administrators and felicitators play a major role in. Here is because if someone in the adaptation engine part of it, if the learning path is not clear, or if someone has any kind of questions, any kind of doubts, the intervening machine or the intervening engine over here is going to be a chatbot, and that is where your felicitator or the administrator can go through. So it's not exactly completely automated chatbot, but it is semi-automated, but wherein it will have certain you would have seen Facebook chatbots, so wherein you would definitely have certain people who are viewing it, but then at the end, once you submit all the details, a live chat actually begins. So that is where the intervening engine comes into picture. But before that, before any kind of adaptation engine is there, we have a predictive model. So this predictive model is what helps the student predict what the next step should be, or what it should be in the upcoming future, what they want to learn after this course is done or this topic is done. And all this data goes and gets collected here in the student learner data. And this is the data that we analyze and we mine and we check what exactly is going on and how the behavior is, what is happening. So this is a quick design about EDM, but how does it have an impact? Well, how does the dashboard look? How is it? So this is basically your dashboard of how an EDM works, the visualized dashboard of how it works. And also, what is the 3 things that we have discovered as of now as a huge impact is that one is the discovery of learner behaviors with data models. Definitely, use of learner analytics and visual analytics and principal design analysis. Just to quickly sum up these 3 things, I can give you a quick case study on it. Like, for example, as you know, we are L&D, and we as designers, developers, we definitely do have a creative hat on whenever we are viewing a case, or whenever we are doing a learner needs analysis or training needs analysis. there was one such case that happened wherein we kind of did the learner needs analysis, but we kind of became very over creative. And since it was a part of field engineering, what we did was that we we went ahead and gave them a gamified content, which the field engineers did not like, because every time they took a call, every time they took when they were on their system and troubleshooting their customers while they were there on, what happened was that they had to play that entire game on the training rather than them being actually present in the moment and working for the need. So when we analyze this, because since what happened, how this happened was that the number of troubleshooting steps had kind of increased for them, and also they were so confused between whether to play the game or whether to reply to the customer online or a person online. So that was the reason why what we did was that we removed the entire gamified content and then replaced it with a simple job aid that they needed to do their day-to-day job better. And after that, the kind of success we saw was that the number of tickets that used to get collected in the day got reduced, and the number of solved tickets increased at the end of the day. So this is the kind of impact that EDM had, and this was the first pilot as well, which we did during the EDM and the entire system that was being put over there. But before moving on, I would definitely would love to show you some few graphs on how the EDM works. So quickly hold with me. Any questions, just feel free to put it in the chat, because this is going to be a little tricky to get it over there. So what we did was that this is how your learner model or your graph exactly looks like. And this was taken for a group of people. And we had, like, the target audience was the executive leadership, which comes under high education and high income. And also the other one was the new hire, like the both extremes. The new hires who had just freshly graduated, and also the mid-level executives who are like manager, not senior manager, just the manager, team lead sort of thing. So that comes under the mid-level part of it. What we did was that with the EDM in place, we had this high level and also a high income and high education. So we kept, how exactly the education part of it works and how exactly it works is what we wanted to check over here. So what we figured out here was that the area here that is covered, like high income, low, moderate education, was mostly the executive staff, like the executive leadership, who actually would love to learn on the go and take a lot of certification courses and practical courses rather than them studying and then working on it. But the ones who had, like if you can see here, low, moderate income and the young part of it. So this is the age group which we were talking about, and this age group was the one who was very curious to know what exactly the learning is. And the thing is that it's just that their experience is low, but the kind of behavior the young, low, moderate showed and the high income, low, moderate education showed was pretty similar. Both of them had very similar views on how they're going to view learning. But if you just saw here this moderate education and low middle age, this is where we found out a lot of I'm not getting that word though. We found a lot of uneasiness to attach to a certain way of learning. So basically they just wanted an ILT for 5 days, and that is what they called as learning. So this is something which we saw in these. So these are like the different learner groups that we had, and we could do the analysis of this. And once we did the analysis of this is where we tried to go ahead and put in or propose certain case studies, if in case we were to do young, moderate and this, we would give them a lot of practical work. So we gave them a lot of simulations, we gave them a lot of in terms of practical DIY projects and stuff like that.
For interrupting you with the time. Could you just wrap up the presentation very soon?
Yeah, this is the last. Yeah, perfect. I just want. Yeah, so this is how so then yeah, once we did this, then we went on to the moderate and low income, and this is where we gave them like a blended learning approach, so that they could do their job much more better and have also the comfort zone of how exactly it is. So what we learned from this was pretty astonishing, was the fact that higher the effort is good, but it is not a good predictor for success, is what we felt. So there were three things that we found. So one is higher effort is good but not a good predictor for success. This was one. The second thing was that we saw that how learning happens in classroom all the time, and we divided them into 4 clusters, and this is what we saw, like how learning happens all the time in classroom. And then the last part was that like learning happens all the time in corporate learning. So we were able to prove on a graphical level on how exactly the learning happens, the time that was taken, and what is the result, and what was the number of reads that were taken. So with this in mind, what is it that we could conclude was that EDM could be definitely used for designing the learning objectives, like what type of media should be used. So should we give mobile access as high or low, or when do the learners log in, and definitely the content design decisions, like do we put the quiz here, what kind of type of introduction do we need, and stuff like that. And then we had obviously the consulting and evaluation part with the intervening engine that comes in between. Apart from that, in the business, what happened was that there was access to education. There was also lifelong learning. There was a cost reduction, and plus along with the high ROI that was returned. So cost reduction here was in terms of the project repetition and the translation part not happening, but the high ROI was when it happened because of the cost reduction that had gone there. And then definitely quality improvement and education society. So keeping this in mind, I felt that data would definitely leave us in amazement. So in case you want to explore more about the potential of EDM, please feel free to reach out to me with your any queries, and let me know what do you think of the entire session.